So, you clicked on this video because you want to learn about ranking up in Valorant, right? So, I'm going to tell you how to do that, but before I show you all the secrets to actually rank up, let me just pull up my triangle from Act 1 real quick. On this screen is my triangle from Act 1, and as you can see, I was like down bad. I was like hard stuck diamond, right? But if I pull up my triangles from Acts 2 and 3, you can see that I hit Radiant in Act 2, and then in Act 3, I hit my full Radiant triangle. So, you guys probably just want me to shut up and tell you how I made this jump. Basically, in order to rank up so quickly, I followed this like 3-step plan I made. And the steps are to establish a routine, to expand your knowledge, and to stay consistent. Alrighty, so now that I showed you guys my little 3-step plan, I'm gonna go focus on the first step of that plan, which was to establish an aim routine. So, what I mean by establishing a routine is, to put it in ape terms, it's like a workout split, but for gaming. It's kind of a cringe analogy, but I hope you get that. So essentially, what you have to do is you have to create a plan that you run every day to help you improve your mechanics. And when I'm talking about mechanics, I'm talking about all that good stuff related to your aim in-game. So what's that plan, you may wonder? To break it down for you simply, the first step in your plan to improve your mechanics should be to play more aim trainers. A lot of people may say that, oh, aim trainers don't help, they're overrated, but that's usually because they don't really see professionals or higher level players emphasize the value of aim trainers. To put it straightforward, they're professionals, right? So they don't really use aim trainers as often as you guys should because they're already professionals and their aim is sick as fuck. But since you guys are like newer players or less experienced than these professionals, you should use them like I did because they help you get adjusted to your sensitivity and they help you improve your aim in general. So if you look at me, right, and when I first started playing, the first thing I did was I installed Aim Labs and put my Valorant sensitivity. There's a little settings button and you can choose which game you want to input your sense from, and I chose Valorant, and then I put my exact sense in the game, and it literally feels almost the exact same, so that's how you know it can actually help you get better at Valorant in terms of aim. And I started playing this game mode called Grid Shot, and it's basically where you just shoot circles that spawn in randomized pattern to help you like get better with your sensitivity and get better with your flicks. And what I'd suggest to you guys is to play Grid Shot for around 30 minutes before you play, and then 30 minutes after your play session. So I know that Grid Shot can kind of be boring sometimes, but what I did was I tried talking with friends, or I threw in some music here and there while I played so that it became a little more fun, and I found that to be really helpful. And even if it gets boring for you guys sometimes, I really suggest you keep playing it because it's literally one of the most important factors in this step to improve your mechanics. In addition to Grid Shot, I also went in game and used something called the range more. And I'm sure you guys know what the range is. It's basically, there's a button at the bottom of your screen in the lobby and it gives you the option to enter the range. And the range is a game mode where you can just mess around with Valorant bots and they just like spawn in a little circle. And you may be wondering how these bots are going to be useful to you, but despite these bots being like literal fucking AIs, they're one of the most important aspects to your aim training routine besides Grid Shot. So I'm going to put a clip right here, and here in this clip you can see I'm like kind of moving and tracking these bots with my crosshair. Like basically I'm moving and trying to keep my crosshair on the bot's head. And this may look stupid, but this helps me like develop more control of my sensitivity and become more used to it. I typically like do this for around 5 minutes after a Grid Shot, so I get used to my sensitivity in game and like tracking the bots. And the reason this works is because this was used a lot in CS. A lot of pros like CB2K did this, and they did it in order to like, you know, get more control of their sensitivity. And just because it's CS doesn't mean you can't do it in this game. And I found it super useful. Like, nobody will ever tell you to do this, so this is my little secret tip. Don't tell anyone. You do this, you get better, alright? Alright, so after, you know, tracing my little bots, what I do is I go into the range settings and I click the start button at the little panel at the bottom. And what this does is it starts the flick training course. And in this course, it spawns in the bots one by one in random spots. And your goal is to just kill each bot before time runs out. And in this clip, you can see I move my crosshair back into the center of my screen after each kill. And what this does is it helps me practice my flicks to and from the targets. So let's say after every kill I didn't move my crosshair back, right? And if a bot were to spawn right next to the bot I just killed, it wouldn't really be that hard of a shot for me to hit. But if I move it back to the center, it's going to force me to hit a hard flick because the center is a lot farther away. So by moving it back to the center, I'm forcing myself to consistently hit hard flicks. But if I just keep my crosshair on the same bot that I just killed, the chances of me hitting the flick are easier because the next bot is going to spawn closer. Overall, this was my actual aim training routine that I did to help me get from Diamond 2 to Radiant. And sometimes you'll see players just randomly shooting the bots or just trying to become 10s in the range by throwing their jet knives. But I think you should really try and follow this routine for the first step. And I promise you, you will see results in your aim because it worked for me and it can work for you. So since we went over the first step, I'm gonna go talk about the second step right now, which is basically making your brain bigger and expanding your knowledge. So that being said, this is a lot easier said than done, but a lot of players think it's overwhelming when it really isn't. When I say make your brain bigger, what I mean is you should learn more about the game and like the basic fundamentals. So one of the first things I did for the second step was I learned more about the agents. So instead of being, your usual Gold 3 Insta-Lock jet main, I learned how to fill and play multiple agents. So I mentioned a term called filling, and if you don't know what that is, filling is when you select your agent based on what your team needs rather than picking based on how you feel. So a lot of the times when I'm playing ranked on my Smurf or whatever, I see people insta-lock in these little ranks and the team compositions are like really fucking bad. And this can cause you to lose the game since you lack out on important roles like smokes and sentinels, which can win you games. So in order to prevent this from happening, you should learn how to play these agents. So for instance, when I'm playing ranked, if I see two of my teammates insta-lock duelists, instead of picking duelists, I'd force myself to go sentinel or smokes depending on how I'm feeling between those two. Even though I like playing duelists a lot, I'd force myself to go sentinel or smoke so that my team has a higher chance of winning since they have the abilities provided by sentinels and smokes. Like I said earlier, this is a team game and not an individual game. What I recommend is, in addition to duelists, you learn how to play either Omen or Brim, and on top of learning those characters, you also learn how to play Cypher or Killjoy. Obviously, you can learn other characters like Sova, and you should definitely experiment with them, but Sentinel and Smokes are like the most basic ones in my opinion, and you should definitely focus on learning them first. And you may be wondering, well, how am I supposed to learn how to play them? Well, I suggest what I did, which was watch basic YouTube videos. I can link them in the description if you guys like. I probably do. But search up, like how to play and then insert your Valorant agent. And if you guys want also, I pretty much play every character in the game. I really like playing Sentinel. I used to make smokes for my team, so I can do tutorials on that if you guys like. On top of learning how to play these various agents, you should also learn about the basic fundamentals of FPS games to make your brain bigger. So these important aspects of FPS games include crosshair placement, movement, and defaults. So let me quickly go through each one. Crosshair placement. Okay, so crosshair placement refers to aiming at around neck or head level and aiming at the positions where you think they'll be. So in this clip, I'm showing off bad crosshair placement, and you do not want to do this. So this crosshair placement is bad because you can see that I'm aiming at the ground and I'm aiming towards their legs. And the questions I can ask myself are they going to randomly just come out of the ground? Obviously not. And am I going to do more damage aiming at their legs? Obviously not again. So in this clip, I'm showing off good crosshair placement. And as you can see, I'm aiming at head level and I'm aiming at the positions where they could possibly be. Instead of aiming at, the middle of the box or the middle of the ground, I'm aiming at, possible angles or possible entrances they could be at. So when I aim at those spots, I can react quickly if they're there and deal the most damage by aiming around the head or neck. You can practice these by going into a custom and loading up maps and trying to pre-aim all the common spots. Like I did in this clip, you can go on Haven and you can practice aiming at all the common angles like C-long, plat, C-long default, all these angles. You can just try to pre-aim them so you get more acquainted to looking at these spots. So the next fundamental of FPS games after crosshair placement is movement. Movement can be sometimes hard to learn, and what you see here is bad movement because I'm peeking while running and moving without stopping. And this is really fucking bad because let's say someone decides to peek me while I'm peeking an angle, right? But since I'm running and moving, my bullets are just gonna go flying to Narnia and I won't even hit him. And I won't have time to, get back to cover, all that stuff. But here, this is good movement, since you can see that I'm incorporating techniques like shoulder peeking, narrow peeking, all these various types of peeking. So if you guys don't know, shoulder peeking is when I'm constantly peeking and unpeeking to only show my shoulder so that I can get info on where they are without having to commit my entire body to kill them. So in this clip, I'm shoulder peeking C Long so that if there's an AWP posted on me, and if he is, he'll try to shoot at my shoulder and he'll miss because of my constant movement, and this gives me the information that he's there. The other type of peeking that's very common is narrow peeking, and this refers to peeking one angle at a time without peeking and committing your body all at once, so that you can always have the opportunity to fall back to cover if, let's say, you whiff or something. So there's obviously a lot more types of movement in peeking, but peeking is one of the main aspects of movement. So in order to improve this aspect of movement, you can try searching up how to peek angles, and if you want to just learn about movement in general, you should watch a lot of pro streams and try to mimic what they're doing, because most pros have really good movement. The final fundamental of these three fundamentals is defaults, and this kind of goes hand in hand with utility usage, so I'm going to just go over both. So a lot of you may not know what a default is, so let me break it down to you real quick. So in this clip, you see what people usually call rushing a site, right? Rushing a site is good sometimes, but not always. Because when I'm playing in lower ranks on my Smurf, I always see people usually just tending to rush site rather than default and focus on team play. So instead of just rushing, you should try defaulting, and in this clip I show you what defaulting really is. So when you default, you basically want to try to get control of the map. You can have one teammate working towards A to try and clear some space and get some control. You can have some teammates towards mid, making some presence there and getting mid control, and you can have another teammate on the other side of the map on C side or something, or working towards C side rather. So this allows you to get more control and spread yourself across the entire map, and this makes yourself really unpredictable because the defenders see you all across the map, so they can't just be like, oh, they're going A. Because let's say they think you're going A, you're gonna have someone on the other side of the map making presence, so they don't really know. And this just represents the problem with only rushing, that stereotype of rushing B and all that stuff. It's really not good because you're gonna make yourself really predictable and you won't really have anywhere to fall off to. And defaulting also plays hand in hand with utility usage, like I mentioned earlier. And utility usage is basically just using your utility properly to help you default and get control of the map. So for example, if I'm Phoenix, I'll use my flash to help me flash corners like Garage, and that basically makes the area a lot easier to get control of because anyone that's holding it will be blind. Or for example, if I have a Sova, I'll tell my Sova to just drone down short so that we can follow the drone and get some control of it and force the defenders to fall off of short without having to risk my life. So even though those are some specific examples, I hope you get the gist. Just always look at your utility. You always want to be using it, don't just waste it. Always use it if you have it. And make sure to always just use them to get control. Focus on getting control with your abilities, and if you can get an opening frag, do it. Just don't throw them out randomly or don't just ignore them. Alright, so the last tip of the video. The last tip is to stay consistent. This may be very hard for you guys, but it's like anything else in life. If you put in the work, you will see results. If you put in half-ass work, like only aim training without learning about the game, you won't see as much results. But if you well-round yourself in terms of aiming, knowledge, yada yada, then you'll see a lot more results. But obviously they'll take time. For me, it took around 2-ish months of hard grinding to see insane results and hit the highest rank in the game, of course, as you saw in the start of the video. And you may feel demotivated at times or angry at some times, but it's best to just take a break and chill out and do whatever you want. Maybe you go out IRL or just chill with some friends, I don't know, but just if you're ever tilted, just don't play, trust me, it's not worth it. Overall, just know that, everyone starts from somewhere and that you'll eventually be good as all these flashy players you see online. I know I just gave you guys pretty much a shit ton of information about ranking up and stuff, so let me just do a quick recap. So the first step is establishing your aim routine, so that involves aim labs, going in the range, and practicing your tracing and flicks. And after, the second step is to expand your knowledge, and that involves learning about, agents, crosshair placement movement, defaults, utility usage. The final step, which is the third step that I just went over, is staying consistent and staying motivated. The last one's a really big one, so please pay attention to that, my guys. Anyways, that's pretty much the end of the video. I'm really sorry about the length. It's 15 minutes-ish, and it's really long, but this is really what I did. I wanted to show you guys what I actually did and the truth to ranking up, and if you made it here, I love you. You literally spent 15 minutes every time, which means a lot to me. And I hope you learned a lot, actually, because I feel like this video just addresses most of the issues I see in lower ranks, and there's obviously a lot more I could talk about, but or else if I put that in, this video would be like 20 light years long. But if you want me to make more specific videos about agents, CT side, T side, anything basically, just comment down and I'll definitely check it out. If you have any like suggestions, definitely hit me up. I know my mic sucks, I'll try to get a new one. And yeah, so good luck with your journey, and I'll see y'all on Radiant.